But you can use that, right? You can use that because you can train your reticular activating system to do things. This is what we have to do. Have you ever, I always use the example, have you ever wanted a new car? Anybody here, you start thinking about a new car, right? But you haven't decided what kind of car you're going to buy yet. So you think, I need a new car. My car's old or the lease is up, whatever, right? And so you start thinking about what kind of car do I want? So you look at this model and you look at that model and you haven't decided. And then suddenly you decide I'm going to buy a BMW. Suddenly you see that BMW everywhere you look. Has this happened to anybody? The day before, one could run you off the road and the cop would ask, what? You wouldn't know because you weren't paying attention. But once you told your brain in a specific way, this is important to me, it will find it for you in the universe. It'll screen out all the other things, right? So what if you begin to train, and some of you already have, you train your reticular activating system to find good personnel, to look for some subconscious markers. Because obviously, like the car example, your brain saw the BMW standing there, sitting there, or driving next to you, but you weren't paying attention because you didn't tell your brain it was important. So it would just file it away, right? So what if you tell your brain, find me good personnel, find me good business opportunities, find me, effective communicator, whatever it happens to be, you could train your brain to do these kinds of things, right? And so that's what we want to do. We want to begin to learn how to do these kinds of things. And it's a lot of fun when you begin to do it. And I always look at master communicators and, how do they do what they really do? And one of the things they do is they appeal to different emotions at different times. And as we before we got started today, I made a prediction. I made a little prediction. And we'll see if it's right. We'll see if it's right. Whoa, you're sitting there with your arms crossed, but I'm going to approach you anyway. So how are you today? Caddy? Katie. Good. I don't know you, do I? We never met before, right? I'll pay you after this is over, don't worry. Now, but I think people are drawn to certain things, even subconsciously, like I use the example of, the car and things like that. I think people are drawn subconsciously. So I made a prediction of what card someone would pick. I didn't know who. And that's here. It's been sealed. I'm not going to touch it, right? So you can see that. But I think people are drawn to certain cards or for certain reasons, that you're going to do certain things. And again, it's just a regular deck. It's just a regular deck. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to stand up so everyone can see. Right? And in a moment, what I'm going to have you do is this. You're just going to just pull it down, look at one card only. So you're just going to, just go beep and look at one card only. Got that card? Focus on that card. And we'll see if I guessed it right. Now, is it a red card? Yeah, and I figured it'd be a red card because you have a good heart. So you're drawn to red. So you have a good heart, right? But it wasn't a true heart because you're a sharp person. You're not just, it's not just a heart. You're a sharp person. So it was a diamond. Was it a red diamond? It was a red diamond. And, you're good at what you do. That's why you're here. And you're getting better. So you're at the top. So it's a high card, but it's probably not a face card. It's not an 8, 9, or 10. It's a face card, right? But you haven't quite hit the pinnacle yet. So it's not an ace. It's not the ace of diamonds. So I would say, would it be the king of diamonds? So tell everybody that. So did I predict it before we got started? Well, wait. There's no hurry. Did I just tell them that? King of diamonds. Thank you very much. Good. So people are pretty predictable if you know how to set up what you want them to do, right? And so you can use things to your advantage and you can have fun with it. Will you play this? This is Reagan when he was asked about his age, you'll see, when he ran for president in 1980.
You already are the oldest president in history, and some of your staff say you were tired after your most recent encounter with Mr. Mondale. I recall yet that President Kennedy had to go for days on end with very little sleep during the Cuba Missile Crisis. Is there any doubt in your mind that you would be able to function in such circumstances?
Not at all, Mr. Truitt, and I want you to know that also I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit for political purposes my opponent's youth and inexperience.
Now, he took a problem that everyone at the country at the time was concerned about, because he was the oldest sitting president. He'd already started showing some signs of slippage, things like that. And he turned it into, I don't want to say an advantage, but he took the issue off the table. From that moment on, it was never mentioned again, right? And he did it with an emotion, humor. It disarms people. It lowers their expectation. And usually if you look at your list of good communicators, one of the common things a lot of really good communicators do is they have a good sense of humor. They can get people to laugh or smile. They don't have to tell jokes. Jokes are horrible ways of humor. But they usually tell good stories, and they can make you laugh. They can make you feel good, you know. And that was a very structured response. It looked beautiful. It looked off the cuff, all the way down to taking the drink of water as people laughed. That had been practiced and set up. He'd waited about a month to deliver that line because he wanted everything. Plus, it was during the debate in the States where it was well watched, right? So, on a really good communicator, it may look off the cuff. It may look, you know, ad lib, but it's structured and it's centered and it's ready to go, right? And so this is the kind of stuff that we want to do, is begin to learn how do people do this? How do they study this stuff? And now there's a very popular, at least to a great majority of the American population and all over the world, we have a person in the United States a lot of people like. His name's Barack Obama, right? Now, Barack Obama's an interesting guy. He's a great communicator. Would everyone agree with that, right? Whether you like his message or not is secondary. He's a good communicator. Now, as we're going to go through this, I'll show you how he did what he did, but it's wonderful. Now, this was during the election a couple years ago when it was still going. You can see there's 4 people on the stage running for president at the time. He was way behind in the polls at this point. Hillary was way in front. In fact, it was a coronation at that point. Vern can testify to that, right? I mean, it was a coronation. It was done, right? And now it comes to this one, and they're sitting there, and he kind of just stuck it out. He was biding his time, and then this happened, and this is where it started to change. And within a few weeks after this debate, it was basically left to him and Hillary. And this is very powerful. So you play this one, and we'll break down how he did it.
I think it's easy to be cynical and just say, you know what, it can't be done because Washington's designed to resist change. But in fact, there have been periods of time in our history where a president inspired the American people to do better. And I think we're in one of those moments right now. I think the American people are hungry for something different and can be mobilized around big changes, not incremental changes, not small changes. I actually give Bill Clinton enormous credit for having balanced those budgets during those years. It did take political courage for him to do that. But we never built the majority and coalesced the American people around being able to get the other stuff done. And, you know, so the truth is actually words do inspire. Words do help people get involved. Words do help members of Congress get into power so that they can be part of a coalition to deliver health care reform, to deliver a bold energy policy. Yeah, don't discount that power, because when the American people are determined that something is going to happen, then it happens. And if they are disaffected and cynical and fearful and told that it can't be done, then it doesn't. I'm running for president because I want to tell them, yes, we can. And that's why I think they're responding in such large numbers.
So, he appealed to the emotions. He connected with people. And when I watch this, I'm always fascinated because I love Hillary's response when she's sitting there as he's talking. Because I think she's sitting there going, oh my God, it's my husband with a tan. Because that's how Bill Clinton talks. He connects with people. He personalizes. And, you know, we could break down exactly all the things that he did, but he was appealing to the better nature of people, you know, to their best nature, to put fear aside. We want change, you know. And, of course, at the time, the country was, you know, that's when the economy was really starting to go bad. So it was just a different time and a different place. And so a really good communicator understands that and begins to how you tag into it. Because, again, it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. And this is a little bit of what we're going to go through today. And before we watch the next one with Bill Clinton, I want to tell you a story. It reminds me of a story. And it has to do with, you know, how people respond in the power of words, if you will, or what the message is. And what it is at the height of the Napoleonic Wars, right? Napoleon was just outside Moscow. He was in Moscow, just outside Moscow. And he gets separated from his troops. So he's a little bit scared because the Cossacks are looking for him. And he just basically raped and pillaged Mother Russia. So, you know, if the Cossacks catch him, of course, he'll get killed, right? So he's looking for a place to hide. So he doesn't know where to hide. So he's looking here, he's looking there. He doesn't quite know what to do. So he sees a little furrier shop, and he runs inside, and he sees the furrier there. And he tells him, you know, I'm Napoleon. I'm the most powerful man you'll ever meet. I can help you. I can give you things, but I need your help. And, of course, the furrier has to look at him for a moment because he realizes if he helps Napoleon and the Cossacks come in, he'll get killed, right? But if he doesn't help Napoleon and the French come back, he'll get killed. So he's in a wonderful situation a lot of us find ourselves in business where basically you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, but you got to make a decision right now with the information in the hand. Any of you ever been in that situation, right? And there's something about the person being there in front of you. So great. So he tells Napoleon, hide under these furs. So Napoleon gets down, covers himself with fur, he throws a few on. About that time you hear the Cossacks come in, you know. They kick in the door and they go like, is Napoleon here? And the little furrier's starting to sweat and goes, no, he's not here. But they doubt him, so they put the bayonets on the rifle and they begin stabbing into the piles of fur. The little furrier's standing there sweating, you know, he's scared to death. They get to the pile where Napoleon is and they're stabbing in, and the little furrier just doesn't know what to do. And just about that time, you hear the cannon fire on the outskirts of town, and it's the French. And so they retake the village very quickly, so the Cossacks have to run and go fight, so they leave. After a few minutes, Napoleon crawls out from under the fur and begins to dust himself off. Well, the furrier's standing there because he's just awed. He's dumbfounded. He doesn't know what to do. And he's looking at Napoleon to see if he's hurt. Napoleon's dusting himself off. And about that time, the French generals come running in because they're looking for Napoleon, because it wouldn't do much for your military career if the emperor got killed on your watch. And so they see Napoleon there and he's doing this, and they come up and they dust him off. But the furrier runs up to Napoleon and asks, what was it like to be so close to death? And Napoleon looks at him, does his Napoleon thing, and goes, how dare you speak to me that way, you peasant? I'm the emperor of Europe. Tells his men, take this man outside and execute him. In fact, I'll give the order myself. Little furrier starts begging for forgiveness, doesn't know what faux pas he committed. They take the guy out, they blindfold him, they put him on the pole, and you hear the troops assemble, and you hear Napoleon come out and hear, ready! Aim! You can almost hear the rifles being aimed. Then there's a long pause, and you hear little footsteps. It's Napoleon. He rips his blindfold off and goes, now you know. Right? You could spend all day talking about something, but if you can connect at the emotional level, it'll get much more effective, right? Because connection is the key to good communication, you know? And this is a good example of a person that doesn't connect and one that does.
We have a question right here.
Yes, how has the national debt personally affected each of your lives? And if it hasn't, how can you honestly find a cure for the economic problems of the common people if you have no experience in what's ailing them?
Mr. President.
Well, I think the national debt affects everybody. Obviously, it has a lot to do with interest rates. It has.
She's saying you personally.
On a personal basis, how has it affected you?
Has it affected you personally?
Well, I'm sure it has. I love my grandchildren. I want to think that that they're going to be able to afford an education. I think that that's an important part of being a parent. Maybe I won't get it wrong. Are you suggesting that if somebody has means, that the national debt doesn't affect them?
Well, what I'm saying,
I'm not sure I get it. Help me with the question, and I'll try to answer it.
I've had friends that have been laid off from jobs.
Yeah.
I know people who cannot afford to pay the mortgage on their homes, their car payment. I have personal problems with the national debt, but how has it affected you? And if you have no experience in it, how can you help us if you don't know what we're feeling?
I think she means more the recession, the economic problems today the country faces, rather than